All right, ladies and gentlemen, so now we are zeroing in on the 0 hour, which is the last and the most, one of the most power-packed panels that we have lined up in the next 3 days. Trans inclusion at the workplace, how corporate India can enable. How have things changed in corporate India after the landmark judgment of repealing Section 377 of IPC? How can corporates build a safe space for all? The panel is going to discuss this and deliberate on a lot more. So without further ado, let me invite our panelists for today. Samyukta Vijayan, artist, techie, trans woman, public speaker. I've heard her speak before. She's amazing, and I think she's joining in from some other part of the world. Neelam Jain, founder, Periphery, social startup driving workplace, LGBTQI plus inclusion, again, Periphery, and the body of work that they have done is phenomenal. Dhananjay Chauhan, president of Saksham Trust NGO and member of Transgender Welfare Board, Chandigarh. Again, the Pride Circles in Chandigarh are organized by Dhananjay. So congratulations, Dhananjay. Amazing work again. And it's going to be moderated by ODQ Valigdad, project manager and APAC ERG lead, life and retirement project management and strategy, AIG. Odi, I'm going to hand over the baton to you, and the screen and stage is yours. Take it away. All of your speakers are lined up and ready. Looking forward to this panel. Over to you.
Thank you so much for that. Can everyone hear me well?
Yes, we can, Odi.
Okay, good. So we're all excited to bring to you our last panel session for day one. So for this panel session, we'll be focusing on another rising hot topic that seems to attract a lot of buzz across the world. Over the past decade, several countries have made unprecedented progress towards LGBT equality. But to date, LGBT people still face widespread discrimination. Between 11% to 28% of LGBT workers report losing promotion simply because of their sexual orientation. 27% of transgender workers report being fired, report not being hired, and report being denied of a promotion in the past year. Discrimination also routinely affects LGBT people beyond the workplace, sometimes costing them their homes, access to education, and even the ability to engage in public life. Despite the dramatic progress of the transgender movement in the last decade, resulting in greater public awareness and significant level victories, trans people continue to face blatant discrimination, high levels of violence, and poor health outcomes. Trans people, especially of color, often face markedly worse health and economic outcomes as they navigate multiple systems of oppressions. Some of the key issues are health, where transgender people face enormous health disparities, including staggering rates of HIV infection and lack of primary care. Economics, where transgender people bear the economic consequences of discrimination, including high rates of poverty and unemployment. Discrimination in education resulting to homelessness. And of course, safety, which is another issue for transgender people and Black transgender women, especially, experiencing frightening levels of physical violence. And of course, everyone has been made aware of these things happening around the globe. But of course, let us now meet our panelists for today's session. We have Samyukta. She is an artist, techie, trans woman, and public speaker. Hello and good afternoon. We also have Dhananjay, president of Saksham Trust, non-government organization, and a member of the Transgender Welfare Board of Chandigarh. And we also have Neelam, founder of Periphery, a social startup driving workplace for LGBTQI plus inclusion. Okay, so I guess we need to start first because a lot of people seem to be confused with telling the difference between a person being gay versus being transgender and cross-dressers. So I guess this is a question that I'll be first asking Samyukta. To establish a common understanding, can you enlighten our audience what the differences are?
Sorry, I just got a call. So the difference between what? Hello?
Do we have Samyukta or did we lose her?
Hey, Odie, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to know the difference between what. I missed your question.
The difference between being gay versus being transgender and being transgender versus being a cross-dresser.
Okay. So the way I have seen some really good people, knowledgeable people explain is something like this. When a child is born, right, most doctors are able to, judge the physical sex of the child by looking at the child's genitals, right? Often it is easily, they are easily able to say, okay, this child is a male child or this child is a female child. But sometimes um, um, children are born with either, both of the female and male genitals conjoined, or sometimes it is clearly, undiscernible, right? So those kids are often identified as intersex children. Okay, so what happens is we don't know the gender of the child. So physical sex is different from the gender. Physical sex is what your genitals say, and gender is what you think you are. So most doctors and psychiatrists advise that we let the child grow the way they want to grow, and then at some point in time they will realize what they are, and they'll come out, and then we will decide. So I think a few years ago there was a ban on doctors performing surgeries to conform intersex children to either male or female, because it's kind of being unfair to the child itself, right? So that is intersex. Now assume the child is born as a boy, like physically their genitals, resemble that of a boy. Um, when the child grows up, at some point in time, they may realize that their physical sex is incongruent with their gender, which is what they think they are. And we call that as being a transgender person. Right now, if a male child wants to, or thinks that she is a female child, then it's a transgender woman, and vice versa. But there are still people who do not want to identify with either gender, or they feel sometimes they are, they identify with one gender at sometimes and the other gender at sometimes. So that is all possible. So we have multiple things like non-binary, gender fluid, gender non-conforming. So all of those terms are being used. Again, it is very and they like to use the pronoun they, them, right? So it is always good to ask the person their preferred pronoun, and that's the best way to know that. Now assume this child does not have that incongruence between their, brain and their physical sex, and they still grow up to be attracted to somebody of the same sex and gender. For example, a male child growing as male is sexually attracted to another male, then they identify themselves as gay, and then there is lesbian, then is bisexual, etc., etc., right? And then there are people who are not attracted sexually or romantically to any gender, and they are asexual or aromantic. And then there are people who are attracted to people across the gender spectrum and the physical sex spectrum, and they identify themselves as pansexual. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is everybody deserves respect and everybody deserves dignity.
I see. And how about for cross-dressers? How would you say people would say that cross-dressers are basically transgender? So is there a difference at all?
Again, I have not had lots of interaction with cross-dressers except one person, right? It's a very, very interesting case. He works as a senior director in an IT firm in Thiruvananthapuram, right? And I actually had a fashion studio where I used to have people come dress up and take pictures. This is for like, heterosexual people. Like we used to do couple photography and all that. This person called me once, and then he said, hey, I want to dress up as a woman and just take pictures, right? And I asked him, even I did not understand what does it mean that a person just wants to dress up and take pictures. And he told me he is married, he is not attracted to men, he is attracted to his wife, and I think they have a child, I don't know for sure, and he definitely does not want to live as a woman. He just says that sometimes he likes to dress up as a woman and then, show his feminine side, and that is all there is to it. And to be honest, when we look at it, that is all there is to it. Cross dresses are just cross dresses.
Okay, thank you for that. And most people are also unaware of your journey as trans women. Can you share your transformation journey to our audience?
Yeah, so I grew up as one of three boys in a small conservative town in Coimbatore. Um, my dad did not go to school, and my mother was just, she did her SSLC or something like that. So I come from a lower middle class family in a conservative town, but my parents were always supportive of who I was. And when people ask me, when do I know? Like, how did I know that I was a woman? I just tell them, I always knew. There is no confusion about who I was. In my mind, I was always a girl. So it was my mother who put me through, a dance school, and because she thought I was very, graceful and I can dance, and I did really well. So I learned Bharatanatyam for almost 10 years. Interestingly, the Bharatanatyam school was a place for me to be myself, to just be, to just show my femininity, to dress up and this and that, to put makeup on. So we used to do all of those celebrations. I put makeup on, I dress up as a girl, and I dance. And it was my father who stitched my first blouse, and my mom would help me put all the makeup and all. Right? They thought of that as to me being really a really good classical dancer. Right? But the point is, my father or my mother have never ever forced me to conform to a particular gender stereotype or a particular gender norm, because they thought, I will become unhappy if they tell me, if they ask me to do or not do things that I really love. Because I had that safe space, I grew up like I did not have the usual gender identity problems that most transgender people have, and I was able to focus on my studies. I graduated second in my district in my high school. I graduated as the top student in my college, and I got the highest paying job when I graduated out of college from from one of the best private institutes in India, right? So all of this was because my parents were always there. They never ever, asked me. So, and interestingly, this is not something that you talk to your parents about, that I feel like this or I behave like I want to be like this. It's very, very difficult for, I mean, in India, even heterosexual people have difficulty talking about their love life or their, girlfriends or boyfriends to their parents. And how about like us talking to them? We never spoke, but it was always implicitly understood that they would let me be who I was and never force me into anything. So and after college, I joined Amazon. I worked for Amazon for almost 10 years, and I was in Europe and the US. And when I was in the US, that's when I got the courage to actually take the step to go through transition. So I remember this very distinctly. I was still unclear if I would pass for a woman when I transitioned from male to female. I was always jittery, and I was always skeptical about the whole thing. Amazon Seattle had a wonderful transgendered Amazon group. Like there were about 10 or 12 people who used to meet almost every month to share, their experiences as trans men and women. I mean, that was the first time I ever met a trans man. And I went to one of their gatherings, and I found how confident and happy they were, dressed up. There was one particular person, tall, gigantic, very she would have made a very handsome man, but she was all dressed up and made up, and with a baritone voice, but very confident and graceful and all. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to go through transition because now I have some inspiration. The next day, I went to my doctor, got my hormone replacement therapy, and in 6 months, I started going full time as a female. And I tell this to most people. On Friday, I go in as Santosh, my previous self. And then on Monday, I go in as Samyukta, my new self. And it was as if I was Samyukta all along. People were very supportive. This was in Seattle. People were very supportive, open, and they used female pronouns, and I was allowed to use the female bathroom. Everything was awesome, that I felt, oh my God, this is just too less drama. Like I was hoping something like some big drama to happen so that I can give this wonderful speech about, transgender people have their rights and all, but nothing happened. It was as if it was any other day. And that's when I realized, I had a wonderful journey and I wanted to do something for the transgender community in India, and I moved back in 2018. But maybe we'll talk about that soon. But the whole thing is, to be honest, I was very blessed to have supportive parents, friends, relatives, and colleagues. And I hope everyone has gets the same blessing.
Thank you for that. And how about for Dan and Jay? Dan and Jay, how about your trans journey? Could you share that to our audience, please?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Namaste. Yeah. I'm from Chandigarh. I'm a first transgender student of Punjab University, Chandigarh. It was a long journey. When it was 3 years when I started identify myself as a female, and when I was 5 year old. So clearly it was understood. Everyone understood that he is not a boy. My parents took me to priest when I was 7 year old. They asked to him to priest that we want to convert him as a male, and priest started working on me, and he burned my body, and he asked like he said to my parents that I have some problem, like there is some ghost inside in her body or his body. So he wanted to work on that, and he was started beating me, and he started saying that leave his body. Sorry. Hello.
Thank you for that, Dan and Jay.
Yeah.
I guess that's something different and unique to hear your story. Of course, with the rise of the numbers of transgenders in India, for sure, Indian society has something to say about this. I'd like to understand, coming from one of the countries in Asia Pacific region. Neelam, can you tell us how India society is reacting towards the LGBT, specifically on the trans community?
Oh, thanks for having me on the panel as well. And I've known Samyukta and heard so much about Dhananjay. So thank you again. Specifically to your question, what I feel is India as a country has been actually a lot more inclusive of the trans community. But if you take the entire LGBT spectrum, it's not as, I think LGB in India is still viewed as something that is not relevant to our culture, that is not relevant to our ethos and things like that. It's still viewed as a Western concept, unfortunately. So I think there's still a lot of awareness and understanding that is needed. Even I think at the state level, at the policy level, there's efforts being made with respect to trans communities, job creation, with respect to the communities, training. Although it's not as much, it should have been ages ago. That's a whole different debate. But I think the visibility is there, just for the transgender community at least. But I don't see that with the larger LGBTQ spectrum. So that's just specifically answering what you had asked.
Okay, and this is in relation to the section 377 of the Indian Penal Code that was removed, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 years ago, and this happened September 6th of 2018. Going back to Samyukta, can you tell us how did this change impacted the LGBT community? And for the benefit of our audience from other APAC countries, can you educate us what the section 377 of the Indian Penal Code is about?
Sure. Before getting to Section 377, I just wanted to talk just one thing about what Neelam said, which is very interesting. Knowing that something exists is different from accepting it, right? So I agree with Neelam that India has a long history with respect to transgender people, but I'm not sure if that also includes acceptance for the community, because for the most part, transgender people have been isolated, kept away. We know they exist, but we don't want to mingle with them. Right? That has been the general idea that people would have. Right? And coming to Section 377, the way I understood Section 377 was that it is an archaic law, probably from the Victorian era. Came to India when with the Britishers, right? Which penalizes any unnatural act of sex, right? And within that, with respect to Section 377, only penile and vaginal sex was considered natural. Anything else, interestingly, even oral sex could be considered unnatural, and people, could book you for something like that, which is interesting because then Section 377 is no longer an LGBT issue. It is, in general, a bigger issue, right? Like you cannot have anal sex or oral sex. All of those are considered natural. But the implication or the way it was seen was that only LGBT people would kind of indulge in such activities, and so it was like the gay law, right? With respect to the transgender community, right? Because we have a huge history of transgender people and also a lot of local identities like Hijda or Aravanis or Jogapas, different socio-cultural identities within the transgender umbrella, right? We've always known they existed. So asking or saying that writing down of Section 377 has had a significant impact on the transgender community, to me does not make sense, because see, on the streets, right? Even before Section 377 brought the plight of sexual minorities to the fore, right? So it was possible for corporates and communities and leaders to have some mechanism to get transgender people into mainstream acceptance. But the effort has been very, very sparse and ineffective. For example, in 2013, Tamil Nadu, in 2008, I guess, Tamil Nadu did the first transgender welfare board, right, which was supposed to help transgender people get housing, get employment, and etc., etc. The last proper meeting for the transgender welfare board was probably done somewhere in the 2013 or 2014 times. Since then, nothing has happened, right? Just for the sake of talking, we can say Section 37 decriminalizes all these acts, so we can actually bring the complete LGBT umbrella. But it doesn't matter. You could have gotten in transgender people a long time ago. However, one silver lining that I see is, because now people talk about Section 377 and that we should not discriminate the entire sexual minority group, transgender people also get a little bit of visibility because they're also within that umbrella. But I think we still have a long way to go, to be honest.
And Neelam, do you have anything else to add on the situation for 377? I know that Periphery was established in 2017, a year before they abolished or they removed the 377 section of the penal code. So how was the situation for Periphery in 2017 before this was removed?
So I think very rightly, like Samyukta said, what Section 377 did was, I think, a lot more for the corporate India and not as much for the communities itself. it did at the policy level make some difference, but I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the intent. It comes down to how people feel about this. It comes down to have I, after the decriminalization, actually become accepting? That those changes have not really happened. And I think the impact on the trans community specifically of 377 is not as much. Because I think that the trans community is also viewed as what we see visibly, and visibly we just see a portion of the community. We just see probably the people that we're talking about on the streets, and while they are a lot of them, I think that just represents a minority. If there are trans men, there are gender non-conforming trans persons, there are so many other trans people in different spaces and are not seen at all or not represented as at all. So I think yeah, I mean, we also all want to look at the positive side that yeah, it went off, but I think there's a lot of work to be done on the ground. But I think the good thing that also came out is companies thereon also felt a lot more relaxed to talk about LGBT. Although it wouldn't have been an issue even if they spoke about it or worked in pro LGBTQ even before decriminalization, it really wouldn't have mattered. But I think it gave that comfort and that flexibility to a lot of organizations. So that has been great to see as an organization, Periphery set up in 2017. And we had a very simple vision to create jobs for the trans community. And it was, we started off with one person who just reached out saying that, hey, listen, I've done my BE. I've not been working for the past 6 years because I just don't get a job. And I said, okay, let me see what can be done. And then we found an organization that said, you know, why not? I don't think this should also be something that we discuss, oh, should we hire or should we not recruit a trans person? But this person wants a job, this person meets those, those criteria for the job, so why not? It started off from there, and I think our work ever since has progressed a lot more, working with different categories of people. I mean, there are folks who have absolutely no education at all, and then we have our revive and our training programs that come in, and we actually run all of these in partnership with corporates itself, because that sort of a learning is not just good for the community but also for the corporates to understand the community at the very grassroots. We do that, and then there are obviously people who are very, very well educated, people who are qualified, and Samyukta again mentioned the reference of a person who's at the director level, and there are so many people like that. I just cannot believe how many senior managers, leadership folks who just reach out to us saying that, hey, if I find an opportunity in an organization where they accept me as who I am, I don't mind. I will leave this job of 15 years and I will move there. So that's how much, and I think it becomes even more difficult when you're at that position. So yeah, then I think that's what it is. So working with people who just want to feel safe, who want to feel rewarded, and who want to feel like, yes, I can be who I am and actually have a career path just like all of us. And I think the pre and post of Section 377, I think immediately after the decriminalization, it was a bit dramatic. We had all the companies putting up logos, and all of that happened. It did become a bit more mild after that, but I think there has been some sort of attraction. And I think one thing that a lot of companies that we do see focusing right now is on, one is awareness and sensitization, obviously, and second is how can they engage with the communities directly, because I think that sort of a learning is what corporates really need. Because if you can do that, and if you understand the communities firsthand, I think integrating them within your workforce, creating a culture where 10% of your workforce is already LGBTQ people, so how are you making them feel safe? All of those things just happen if you understand the communities at the very core. Yeah, I will pause with that.
So, from my understanding, from what I'm seeing here, Periphery provides support to transgender individuals in India, regardless if they have access to education or if they do not have access to education. I'm very curious about how does it work for people who do not have access to education? Would it be safe for me to assume that it's your company that pays for the education? That's, of course, the educational costs and everything that's behind it to send these people to schools.
Yeah, I have a very funny take on how I often explain this. I say that Periphery is like a Robin Hood of this space, we do not charge the community for any of the services, and it does not matter if that person has the access to money or education or not. We just feel like we should not be charging the community that we're working for. So regardless of their education, regardless of whether they were getting them a job, counseling, training services, all of that, everything is provided to the community free of cost. And then we work with corporates who can actually pay for those services. Because at the end of the day, this is making a huge amount of impact in the corporate itself, and it's making a huge amount of impact in your culture, in your own diversity and inclusion goals. So I feel this is a highly value added service. So that's how we've been working, and I think that is something that the community also appreciates, especially those who don't have access to education. We have, just before COVID, we used to work on our residential training programs. So we've done this in partnership with companies like ThoughtWorks, ANZ. We have something coming up with Walmart and Goldman as well. So some of those initiatives that constantly help us bring in people, because that environment change is really, really important and crucial for the community to actually upskill. So they stay with us for a period of 30 to 60 days. We train them on corporate skills, spoken English, communication, all the basic stuff that can at least help you get an entry level job. And this is specifically for those people who did not have that access. So while education is a whole different, thing to work on, I think upskilling is so much more easier and at least creates an initial funnel of job for the communities.
Very well said, Neelam. Thank you for that. Of course, now we're talking about advocacy and helping our trans brothers and sisters. I know Dan and Jay also has an advocacy on a different level. So Dan and Jay, why don't you share that to the audience and to us as well in terms of the advocacies that you're providing to the trans community in India?
Organize pride in mass level. So it is the mass level advocacy, and there is a lot of work we are doing with the government and non-government organization. When I organized first Pride in Chandigarh, so people didn't know about LGBTIQ community. So they were asking me, what is these things? What are they? These people. So I started working on. But before that, I started working with different NGOs also, and who are working on HIV/AIDS. And in Chandigarh, when I got admission in Punjab University, even Punjab University didn't have a third gender column. So I start working with them. That I said that Supreme Court has ordered that every government and central government and state government should add third gender column in every form. So Punjab University add third gender column after my request, and I got admission in Punjab University, and I start working with Punjab University how we can take a step towards get education for transgender community, and we can create enabling environment in Punjab University. So I start working with every department like sociology, psychology, human rights, women studies. There is a lot of works. There is a lot of department, even law also. I start sensitizing them, organize seminar, workshop. So after 2-3 years, Punjab University became the partner of LGBT Pride. When I organized the first Pride in 2013, Punjab University said such kind of activity should not allowed in educational institution. But 2017, they became the part of Pride. And after long advocacy, like continuously advocacy, and I sensitized vice chancellor, dean of university instructions, dean, student welfare, in every department also. And now we have Punjab University is the hub of LGBT community. They can come, and we have a Punjab University waive off the fees. We have free education in Punjab University for transgender community. We have a separate washroom in Punjab University. We have a anti-discrimination cell in Punjab University for LGBT community. We have a transgender welfare board in Chandigarh, and Chandigarh government announced that we will, like any government function, any government event, they will provide us one stall, free stall, where we can stand and create awareness in the public also. So this became like good. This was good sign for LG. Even we have a Lalit Hotel in Chandigarh also. They also give, and they are providing job also, and Mahindra Tech also. There is a lot of other things that after my admission in Punjab University, the government also taking a lot of steps, and I can say that education can. Everyone will be agree with me that without education we can't come in mainstream. So we were beggar. Like I started my education with my own efforts. Nobody was helped me. I was topper of the university in 1993. But uh, when I that time I faced ragging, so I dropped my education. After 23 years back, I started again education. So after long gap, I again started education. I was in Hijra community. I was in begging. I was in sex work also, but I left now. I am in mainstream now. So working my best in the society. So yeah, there's a lot of works happening in Chandigarh. I can say that I was saying that I'm in right gender, but in wrong world. But now I'm saying that I'm in right gender in right world. So मैं ताली नहीं बजाऊंगी, ताली बजवाना था मुझे. Like I will not clap, but I will let clap the peoples. So this was long journey with me. I faced a lot of harassment and in the university also, and students were saying that these people should not allowed in educational institution. I set the example. I said no. Don't need anything. We need only acceptance. We are in laws, but we are not in heart. And I'm trying to be in law also and in heart also. So people, they allow us, they give us money outside. When they see us on the road, they give us money, but they never allow to enter in the house. They always, it is still stigma in their mind that these people are cursed. So I don't need any sympathy, I need empathy. People should allow us, people should invite us in the house also. They should like appreciate our work also. If I'm getting education, they should appreciate. They should then think that they should start thinking that we are the same. We are not aliens. We are the same thing like you. We are the same human being like you. I can do anything, whatever you can do. So after long journey, I'm a 50-year-old. See what I'm still student. I'm getting education. So I'm doing PhD in social work. So after long struggle, I never thought, I never leave that the idea of education. Still in my mind that I will get education even before my death. So I want to see the good and healthy world, peaceful world, and acceptance where we have acceptance in this society. I'm still working and sensitizing each and every one here in Chandigarh.
Okay, I'd like to what you mentioned earlier about people giving money, but they do not invite homes. Is this a common situation in the Indian household? They only give you money because they want to show their support to the transgender community, but at the same time, to invite you inside their homes. I'd like to understand, coming from someone who's not from India, can you further elaborate and explain this to us?
See, when like other people, my counterpart, they told you that Hijra people, like every Hijra are transgender, but every transgender are not Hijra. Hijra is a culture. So when we grow like as a man and like identify as a female, and people start discrimination us that why they are behaving like this, they are a man, and why they are behaving like a woman. Everyone wants man. don't nobody wants a female in their house, and someone if become a female, then they throw out their children from the house, and they say other people in the society, they think that these people are demigod and they should be in the outside of the house, like in temples we worship god, goddesses and demigod, but we allow them in house but in a particular place, and or either we worship them in the temples. So they think that we are also demigod. They will not allow. It's a long story. When we had the equal rights in the ancient India, you can in Rig Veda there is written, what is unnatural is what seems unnatural is also natural. But after 1860 and after 1860 they criminalized us, and 1871 British they put us in criminal category in Anti-Tribal Act, and all transgender they became criminal after this law, and people started thinking that these people are cursed if they invite us in their house for living, and their children will be like transgender or homosexual. They avoid us. They don't allow us in the house, and I always say that I always explain that I always give example to the society, like someone is like working in zoological park for 40 years. He never become a monkey after retirement. So how can you become a homosexual or a transgender after living with us? So nobody allow us in the house. We are on the road. Like I'm in restaurants right now. I'm sitting in the restaurant. I don't have a house. So because if I sit my home, I don't will not have any internet connection, good connection. So I'm sitting in the restaurant right now. So I can't cry. I can't cry in the public, but I want to become a brave woman. You are born with a woman. You are born as a woman, but we achieve it with struggle. I'm a superwoman. You are a woman. I'm a superwoman. I achieved with struggle this the long way. I'm a 50-year-old and still struggling. I don't know what is my future, and still outside the house. Nobody, my parents, my family, they don't allow us to enter in the house. Whatever I have right now, it's my own. My gender, my name, I have everything my own. So in 2018, Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, he invited me for dinner, and after that, society start accepting me. They thought I'm a not simple person, but do you think that if I'm nothing, will people accept me? If I'm poor, if I have no money, if I have no house, will people accept me? Right now, I have name. I have I have lot of. I'm doing work with the society. So little famous in the society. After that, people start accepting me. But what about other people who have no education, who are in begging, who are in sex work? They don't have house. In pandemic, in during COVID-19, I distributed ration, like food in the slum areas of transgender community. They didn't have, because their business sex work stopped, their begging was stopped, so they didn't have food. So there's a lot of problem, but still I'm happy that I'm much better than other world. I have courage to struggle. I will fight. I will fight for my rights. I will show that we are not less than you. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that story to us, Dhananjay. I know this is quite touching, and I'm so shocked to hear about the situation where you have to go to the restaurant just to be able to connect to Wi-Fi and internet. it is sad, but at the same time, we are with you in terms of the journey that you've been through. We know the struggle is real, and the struggle is not that easy among transgender men and transgender women. Acceptance in the society is something that we are really striving for. And this is going to be a long battle and a long fight. But of course, with the progress, we are making progress one step at a time. And hopefully, we should be able to achieve that. Dan and Jay, of course, I'd like to thank you as well for sharing your story that you've established something in Punjab University. So that is very, very good. That's really an achievement for you and the transgender community in Punjab. Thank you for that, Dan and Jay.
Thank you so much.
But, with all these advocacies that we're putting out here to help our trans brothers and sisters, going to the workplace, now that I know some of you are also working, Neelam, you're working in placement and providing opportunities, career opportunities for our trans brothers and sisters. Would you say that discrimination towards transgenders still exists in the workplace or continues to exist in the workplace?
Yes, go
Sorry,
on.
Neelam. Yeah.
No, go on.
Yeah. Okay. So for somebody like me who has achieved some level of social status and financial status, it is not that big of an issue, right? Because when I came back to India, I was already a transgender woman, and I was working for Amazon. And to be honest, I never needed anyone's mercy to go about my work, right? So if that was the case, probably people would be okay interacting with you, professionally, right? Now, when we talk about a corporate setup, there are two big pieces to it. One, as a transgender person, are you allowed to work? Are you given equal opportunities? Are you, professionally, dealt with the same way that your fellow worker is being dealt with, right? Probably those things, since they come from a senior leadership, and there are principles in most corporates. There are principles and how do I put it? Things that govern workplace, harassment or existence and all that, right? So those things help transgender folks lead a decent professional life. However, one of the things that I've heard from a couple of transgender women who had gotten jobs recently is that they don't get invited for lunches with other colleagues. And sometimes when people go out, let's say they're having a women's day out, and this transgender person may or may not get invited to such. So within the professional setup, there is always this human interaction, this social interaction that is supposed to be had. And I'm not sure we are still there yet. Now, this is given somehow a transgender person figures out a way to get into a corporate setup, and there are hundreds of people who are not necessarily qualified, but skilled to be able to do the same job as a fellow worker, but still do not get the opportunity because they not have proper qualifications, degrees, certifications, etc., etc. And thankfully, people like Neelam and Periphery figure out a way to get these people into mainstream jobs. And however, most people expect that transgender people, like any other worker, come to them skilled, so that they can, from a business perspective, it is much easier for them to take a skilled person and then have them hit the ground running. But that is not going to happen in a lot of cases, because not just because they are educationally unqualified. Sometimes it could just be these soft skills to interact with people in the corporate setup. Right now, whenever I go for sensitization workshops, or whenever some corporate folks reach out to me to hire transgender people, the first thing I say is, it is not okay to expect that these people come up come to you with the same sort of skills, soft skills or technical skills, and you can just get them in and then have them, hit the ground running. You need to have some kind of like maybe a month of training or internship or something that allows the transgender person to test the waters, settle down a bit into the corporate atmosphere, during which time there is enough care given to the person to be able to navigate the waters. Now, at the end of this month, it is possible that that particular transgender person may or may not fit the corporate culture and become a full-time employee, but that is okay, because it is important that people consciously have a bias towards hiring transgender people. Otherwise, it's very difficult for the corporate setup to have the diversity of transgender people. When I came back from the US into to Amazon Bangalore, I was the only transgender person in the whole of the Bangalore office. We're talking about 20,000-30,000 people, right? And that is the case with a few other transgender women in different parts of the country within Amazon as well, right? So the first thing I always tell people is figure out a way to have a conscious bias to get people in transgender people in, even as interns or trainees, and then we will, once those things are set up, more and more people will get into the mainstream work culture.
Yeah, and just adding on to that, I think discrimination within, especially in corporate spaces, it is not, no one will upfront come to you and say that, hey, I do not approve of you. It really does not happen that way, and it's very passive. And I think, but it does go home, and it does stay back with the people who get impacted. So there is a lot of effort that needs to go into sensitizing the hearts of people. And there are so many fabulous organizations that are doing this. There's diversity dialogues, there's Periphery does it as well, and a ton of other organizations whose names we can also share with the companies that are here, so that you can actually partner with organizations who are actively doing this and who can help you in this journey. It's not necessary that you need to solve all of these pieces on your own. And second thing is the entire creating job opportunities. And the reason why we're focusing so much on the trans community, even within the LGBT spectrum, is because, even for the LGB and the larger queer community, they do have access to jobs one way or the other. But the problem is they're probably not accepted for who they are. They're in your workspace already, they're in the closet, and they just don't know what will happen if they come out as gay. Will they lose their job? Will they be made fun of, etc.? But most trans people do not even have that sort of an opportunity. So creating that opportunity is not just good for the community. I want to reiterate that it's great for your organization. You're building a talent pool that will value this opportunity, and I think you're making a human difference. You're making an impact on the life of someone who didn't have that before. So I think companies can come together, and there's so many proven models of companies working together, creating internships, trainings, and they've worked out beautifully. And people have been working in those organizations for 3, 4, 10 years plus. So I think we just need to take that step and utilize the resources that we immediately have, instead of thinking, how do we start? What is the step one for a corporate? I think everybody can start in the way that is feasible for them, but use the resources that are available at your disposal. So, yeah.
And that is the reason why we're all here today, because we wanted these companies to hear us, hear our voices, hear the situation, and why we need to, change or move forward when it comes to accept our trans brothers and sisters from the LGBT community in terms of, how can we move forward and, promote diversity and inclusion. It's not just about the sexual orientation or identity. It's all about what someone or what a person can bring to the table. So with that, I'll be posing this final question to everyone. What can we do differently to increase the chances of our companies to employ our trans brothers and sisters? Is there something that we need to do more or differently this time moving forward? I'll start with Neelam.
I'd say work with Periphery. No, but just kidding. Not just that. I think it's very important that you've sort of built that organically, to be very, very honest. And that's what we see the most successful companies do it as well. You create a culture, and it starts off with sensitization, but you have enough role models created within your organization. And I'll have to take Samyukta's example here. I think Samyukta being visibly a part of Amazon, championing the cause, made so much of a difference. And I think it empowered so many other people in Amazon who were probably in the closet, or many other people who were outside and who were wondering how to join Amazon. So I think that is what you simply need to do. And even if you're not working with an external organization to do that, ensure that you're creating enough role models, that is with their consent, if they're comfortable and all of that. But just do it as organically. Ensure that people are seeing these role models, because it's only role models that can actually make your organization look, it should look genuine, and it should be authentic at the end of the day. So yeah.
Thank you for that, Neelam. Samyukta?
Also say work with Periphery. They're a wonderful organization to work with. So Neelam and the team have really helped us. So when I had small startup, so they helped get a few people who I had the opportunity to work with and train a little bit on my end as well. The only thing that I would say is 50 years ago or 70 years ago, there was when leaders looked at this huge caste and class difference in India, they put some kind of affirmative action which said these people who are from the lower caste will get reservations, and we will consciously are biased in making sure they have resources, so that at some point in time in the future they will have the access to opportunities, education, housing, the same as any other citizen of India. Now, in 2014, the Supreme Court, as part of their Nalsa judgment, said that it is important for state governments, the central government, and institutions to provide reservation for transgender people, so that they can actually, in the next 10 to 20 years, we would reach a place where we don't need such reservation. But at the moment, we need something like that. What is a reservation to a government sector is affirmative action or a conscious bias when it comes to private and corporate sector, right? That they consciously know that we are going to work with people who are different, and in some cases special, that we might have to provide them some special concessions until they actually get there to be able to do the job like anybody else. I'm pretty sure they will get there, because I have worked with people and I know that if you are willing to work with them, they are willing to work with you and make this work for all of us, right? So you need to have that conscious bias. Take the first step. And make sure that you know, as Neelam said, you are making an immense a difference in the life of somebody who would otherwise not have had this opportunity.
Very well said, Samyukta. Thank you for that. And Dhananjay?
Yeah, I'm agree with Samyukta and Neelam also, and the same. I'm repeating the same word. We should create environment and environment in the job places, and we should put examples, like we set examples of providing them employment who are eligible for the post. Like in Chandigarh, we have a transgender welfare board, but I'm always saying that the chairperson should be from community. Like the Women Commission, we have the chairperson from women, the Commission of SC, ST, Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe. The chairperson is from the same community, and Waqf board, Muslim board, they have the Muslim person. Why we have a chairperson from the mainstream society? We have the same person from the same community in the welfare board also. It is government board. So this kind of small step we can change, and we can change the mindset of society. Like when I got admission in the Punjab University, it was a raw way, like the tough way to set the exam. But when I got admission, I start setting the examples, and now we have every year 5 to 10 students came. They get admission in every years after 2016. So it was like the change never come overnight. It gradually comes, and yeah, I can say society is changing. The mindset of society is changing day by day. Like Neelam and all people are like they are supporting us. They are creating awareness in the society. I'm very optimistic. One day we will see. My vision is I always think that one day our country's prime minister will be from transgender community or from LGBT community. So yeah, but we should come out. First of all, the community should come out and get education. We should not lose a single opportunity. Even if I get an opportunity of 10,000, like I should get job and start empowering ourselves and set the example in the society that yes, I can do anything, whatever I have in my hand. So this is my, in the last note, I can say we need only acceptance. We don't need any special rights. We need only acceptance. We can do everything.
Thank you for that, Dan and Jay. So we ran out of time. We still have lots of questions. We wanted to talk more and get to know you ladies more, but I need to pass on the mic to Shreya. Shreya?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, panel, because I think there were moments there where we had goosebumps. I think there were moments that were that had so much clarity. I think there were moments when there was shame about the way that this human race sometimes refuses to let acceptance take natural course. But I think there was also so many revelations that came to us as a part of this conversation. Congratulations to all of you for the amazing work that you guys do. What a pleasure it was, Odi, to hear you moderate that with Dhananjay, Neelam, and Samyukta. I think we couldn't have asked for a better start to close day one of Dive In 2020. Congratulations to all of you. Like I said, each one of you, such powerful, strong stories of resilience, of strength, and of doing amazing, amazing work. So a huge round of applause. I'm sure there are questions, but unfortunately we've run so much out of time that we will bring back this panel in some form at a later date. But all the very best to all of you. Continue to do the amazing work that all of you are doing and inspire us. Thank you and kudos. And I think a huge heartfelt thank you from the entire Dive In team to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as promised, that was one hell of a power pack trans inclusion at the workplace session. How corporate India, I think this had how India can enable and empower. Such beautiful stories. I don't want to leave this panel, but it's important that we stop and end on time. We've managed to keep time today. Thank you so much for all of our viewers who stayed with us through today. At some point, we had 200 plus people who had joined in, so I think it's great to know. And it will also be available for later consumption for anybody who wants to watch them, because I think these are real pearls of wisdom in so many ways. Thank you once again, everybody. That's the end of day one of Dive In 2020. Thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure and honor. Hope you enjoyed it as much as all of us did. And thank you once again to our esteemed panel for having joined us. Thank you very much. And this is us signing off from day one. See you all tomorrow, bright and early, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. See you. Bye-bye.